to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? We are back for the year 2023, roughly a week away from the first UFC fight card of the year, the headliner Gastelum versus Amavov. Other than that, there's some intriguing matchups throughout that card, some very young and promising talent that we get to watch perform next week. So we're excited about that. Of course, you guys know when we're fight deprived for as long as we have been, we just cannot wait to watch some UFC action, some MMA action there. So excited about that. I'll have that video out to you guys hopefully here in the next day or two. This video is going to be a little bit different. We're doing a recap of the year 2022, how we did overall from a betting standpoint. I'm going to be throwing some betting tips your way as well, things that we've learned in the past, even before the year 2022, but things that have that we've gone over again during this year. I've been crunching the numbers, of course, looking at all the bets that we attacked throughout the year. We'll be talking about how the parlays went. You guys know I like my two-team parlays, even though statistically you're supposed to be avoiding those parlays. You guys know I just personally stay away from anything 3 and above typically, but I have found success with my two-team parlays, which statistically is a little bit rare, right? So we'll be talking about that, and I'm going to be throwing some tips your guys' way as far as betting on sports in general, but betting on MMA, things that I've learned, things I've known from the past. I want to reiterate some of those things and make sure you guys are on your P's and Q's, all right? So first and foremost, how did we do for the year 2023? So we profited 58.83 units on the year, with a win ratio of 65.7, which you guys know how I feel about the win ratio. If you guys don't understand, the win ratio means absolutely nothing. You can have a win ratio of 5%. It's a little ridiculous and a little extreme, but you could have a win ratio of 5% and still be profitable technically if you're attacking big time underdogs. All right. So again, the win ratio, think about it like this, right? You could be betting major favorites every single weekend and have a win ratio of 95% or up in somewhere in the 90% range, and you could still be losing money because the payouts on your bets are not going to be much at all. So again, that win ratio, don't ever really put too much merit into that statistic. I want to make sure you guys understand that. All right. Now, this is a statistic that you definitely want to pay attention to. The ROI, the return on investment. Last year, we had a ROI of plus 14.08, which was better than my 2021 years of 11.5. And I'm very impressed with what we were able to put together of a 14.08 ROI. It's very, very hard to do. If you're anywhere from the plus 5% range on an ROI, you're doing very well. Anywhere up towards 10, 15, you're doing very, very well. So I feel great about that. Now, we did bring in less amount of units of profit this year at 58.83 than last year's of 72.94. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, well, how does that work? Why did you profit less units this year if you had a higher ROI? That's because for whatever reason, and this wasn't necessarily by design, but for whatever reason, just by the way I was targeting bets this year, I was putting up much less amount of units throughout the year. I wasn't putting as much out, I wasn't putting as much money out to bring money back in. Okay, so for whatever reason, I was kind of wagering a little bit less, attacking better lines, attacking underdog lines and whatnot. Last year, I did actually almost wager 100 units more than when I say last year, I'm referring to 2021. I almost had 100 units out over the entire year more compared to 2022. And that wasn't even necessarily by design. It just kind of happened naturally, just the way I was targeting bets this year. And I think I'm going to stick more to that way. I mean, I know I brought in less units, but it was a little bit safer. I wasn't risking as much. I wasn't putting so much on the line, and we were still bringing in plenty of units. So I felt great about that. So let's talk about these parlays, right? The parlays. I briefly touched upon it as we kicked off this video. I'm going to throw a betting tip towards your way. And if you guys haven't heard me say this before, I don't know, you guys must have been sleeping under a rock, because you guys know I'm always transparent that you guys should be staying away from parlays. Statistically, you should be staying away from parlays. I'm going to try to explain to you why you should be doing that, right? So when you're making a sports bet right now, you think about it like this: if there's two fighters that are going to be throwing down, and it's generally agreed by the masses that it's an even fight, right? You would think in a fair world, you'd be getting a plus 100 line, even odds, right? If you put up $100 on that fighter and he wins, you should be getting $100 back. That's not how it works in the betting world, right? There's the tax, there's the VIG. You're going to be getting a minus 110 line typically, right? On most sportsbook, you're going to be getting a minus 110. If you see two fighters that are evenly matched and you look on your sportsbook, you're going to see a minus 110 versus a minus 110. On some sportsbook, you might see a minus 115 versus a minus 115. Depends on how much they're taxing you. That's something you want to look into. Now, this is a concept that I would like to believe even the most basic sports bettor understands. I would say so, right? For the most part, everybody understands the VIG. They understand that even odds, you're getting at minus 110. If you put up $100, you're getting $90 in return. That's just part of the game. You're coming in at a disadvantage from the get-go. As far as making money long-term, trying to profit long-term, you're coming in at a disadvantage. I think everybody understands that, right? Go to Vegas, take a look around, see all the buildings, the lights. Obviously, they're making their money and they have an edge, right? So we understand that. But where I do think some of you guys are sleeping is when it comes to the parlays and how it multiplies, okay? How you're even at more of a disadvantage for every leg that you add to a parlay. And I want to go over some numbers with you guys. All right, so we talked about how where if there's an even fight, it should be plus 100, but in the world we live in, it's a minus 110. All right, now you take that minus 110 line. Let's do a two-team parlay with two even fighters, two minus 110 betting lines, right? We should be getting a plus 300 line on that, but you're typically going to get a plus 265 line, okay? So we just talked about how if you go after a straight bet that, okay, they're getting you for 10 points. Well, now in the two-team parlay, you're now getting caught for 35 points, okay? You should be getting a plus 300, a plus 100 parlayed with the plus 100. It was a plus 300. Now a minus 110 parlayed with a minus 110. You're now getting a plus 265 line. So you're even at a more of a disadvantage, okay? Let's do a three-team parlay. Take three even fighters, parlay them together. You should be getting a plus 700 line. That's not the world we live in. You're going to be getting a plus 597 line. Do you see the difference now? We're talking about 103 points, okay? This really starts to multiply, all right? And that's not even bringing to account just using common knowledge. If you have a giant parlay slate together, let's say a 6-teamer, you can literally be on the money for all 5 of those 6 fights, and then just one fight, something freakish happens and it throws off your entire parlay. So again, I want you guys to understand that these parlays are no good long term. That being said, I'm not one that just believes that you want to just stick to the script from a number standpoint. There are outliers, and where that comes into play for me are my two-team parlays. I've attacked two-team parlays throughout the years, and I've had success with them. For whatever reason, I have had success, and I chalked it up to the fact that when it comes to the sport of MMA, there is a statistic track record of some of these favorites. Especially if you're targeting the right favorites, if you know the sport and there's certain matchups, they are typically going to come through. And again, this past year, we are in the green with our two-team parlays. You guys know that's as high as I really go for my parlays. Two-team parlays, I was in the green at 10 units for my parlays this year. And that's, again, even back to last year, I would believe I was almost at 20 units for my parlays last year. So I was in the green for 10 units on my parlays this year. And I was in the green with my two-team parlays, 10 units, with 3 losses on two-team parlays that included, let's pull these up real quick, because this was this hurt. Okay, so I had a two-team parlay of Khamzat Chimaev and Pyotr Yan, which was a massive parlay for me. It was an 8-unit parlay. Okay, an 8-unit parlay. That one obviously hurt very bad. Excuse me, guys, real quick. I just want to pull something up here. I want to go over some of these parlays. So we had a Khamzat Chimaev and Pyotr Yan parlay. That was a very disappointing one. You guys know how I feel about that Pyotr Yan fight. I felt that it should have won his way, but I'm not going to sit here and moan about that. But even with that loss there, a massive max play two-team parlay. And then we had a 5-unit parlay on Kamaru Usman and Miranda Maverick. You guys remember that fight? It wasn't that long ago. Miranda Maverick obviously came through in dominant fashion. Kamaru Usman gets head kick knocked out in the 5th and final round in one of the craziest comebacks of all time. Okay, that's losses right there. Those are losses. And again, I mean, you could sit here, you could bitch and moan, but it is what it is. But I mean, statistically, how likely was that to happen? I mean, Kamaru Usman was dominating that fight for the most part. I mean, Leon had some success in the first round, but Kamaru Usman took that fight over. He was on his way to winning a decision, looked great, and I was just getting a little reckless in there. And that parlay cost me some units. And then, I mean, this was a straight up loss, but still, just to give you an idea, I mean, I did lose a chunk of change here on the last fight card of the year on a 2-team parlay that consisted of Sergey Morozov, who came through, and then we had Jake Matthews dropping the ball again in the last fight card of the year. I lost 4 units on that. So even with all 3 of those massive losses on my 2-team parlays, I still profited 10 units, which is impressive, right? So I mean, we were pretty much hitting almost all of our 2-team parlays. They were just coming through like butter, man. There was one other 2-team parlay that was a little bit close. It was fortunate that it went my way. That was that play with Brendan Allen, who defeated Jacob Malkoun. That was a close fight. That was a 2-team, and Valentina Shevchenko. Those were 2 fights that were both very close, and that 2-team parlay came through. But even with that loss, I was still in the green. And then every single other parlay, if you take a look at them, both fighters pretty much came through in dominant fashion. So I stand behind my 2-team parlays, but I feel, sounds cliche, but I feel you have to be on the right fighters. And it sounds simple or whatnot, but I mean, sometimes when you're looking at these betting lines and you see a minus 400 or minus 500, you guys know we talk about it on the show when we're breaking down these fight cards. I don't really feel that line should be where that's at. And then there's other fights where you see a minus 4, minus 500, and I say, hey, you know what? That line could even be as high as a minus 800 as far as I'm concerned. Stylistically, this is a horrible matchup for that fighter, and I'm fading him here, or I'm taking this dominant fighter. I know this is going to be a walk in the park, and they tend to come through. Not even tend to come through. They come through. Just to show you, from a visual standpoint, we take a look here at the Ketlin Vieira versus Raquel Pennington line right now on many sports books. It's at even odds, minus 110 versus minus 110, right? All right, so now look what happens here. I'm going to use this betting line as an example. I know it's just one fight, but imagine it's 3 separate fights, right? We're going to parlay that minus 110 3 times in a row. So just imagine it as if it's 3 separate fights there, even though it says Vieira, Pennington. Those 3 fights parlayed together, you're getting a betting line of plus 596, okay? Now, remember now, that's an even fight, so it should be even odds, okay? You know, they're getting you on the minus 110 on the straight bet, but together now, look at the difference of what they're getting. Remember that number, plus 596, plus 596, okay? Now let's go parlay what you should be getting. We're going to go all the way down here to a future fight of Brendan Moreno and Davison Figueroa. We're going to be going at it once again. We can see a couple betting lines here where you can get Moreno at even odds. But remember, even odds is not necessarily even. He's a slight underdog. All right, now let's imagine that you're parlaying 3 separate fights there. That's a plus 700 line, a plus 700 line. That's the betting line you should be getting. So do you understand by parlaying how much you're giving up, how many points you're giving up? You're giving up over 100 points when you start to do that. And again, it only takes one of these fights. Although in this case, you see a bunch of Morenos. But remember now, imagine that's 3 separate fights. It only takes one of these fighters to drop the ball. Brandon Moreno all of a sudden doesn't look as good as he did the first time he fought Figueroa. And all of a sudden he drops a fight. All of a sudden Figueroa looks like a beast again. And your parlay is scratched. All right, so you want to take that into consideration. Stay away from those. You guys can expect many more tips and tricks coming your way throughout this year. A lot of big stuff coming your way. I know I've been talking about this green screen forever. It's on the route. It's already been ordered. I've been putting a lot of work on learning this new program, so my videos are going to be looking way better without a doubt within the next couple weeks. I know it's been taking a long time, but I got it going, and I'm really excited for this year. Hopefully that one tip I gave you will help out. Hopefully you guys found it interesting going over the betting results and whatnot. Hopefully you guys are all keeping track of what you guys are doing throughout each year. You guys got to be keeping track of your bets. You should be writing them down, putting them into a into a system, whatever it's Microsoft Excel, whatever it is, writing them down on paper. You should be keeping track of all the bets you place. Keep it organized. That's the only way to learn from your past mistakes and see where you're having success and to continue to grow as a sports bettor if you want to make more money long term. Otherwise, you're just going to be out here betting recklessly and you're going to be blowing money. So you got to keep a structured system. All right, guys. So hopefully you found this video interesting. I'm so excited for the 2023 year. This long break in between fights has really got me pumped up. And I want to keep this energy all throughout the year. I want to be giving you guys a lot of exciting content, not just from a betting perspective. I want to start branching out with this channel. I want to start getting some fighter interviews going again. I want to start just talking all things MMA, big things in the news. I want to start going over things and just putting out funny and entertaining content to you guys. So that's what you can expect here. All right, guys. You guys know it. I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. And please hit that like button on your way out. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you're going to want to do that because you're going to have a lot of good content coming your guys' way. All right, guys. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.